What is the wise piece of advice you would give to someone who wants to start a business?
I would tell them that you really have to want it. The other thing is surround yourself with the right people. And really, third, learn to be super disciplined and learn how to get rejected.
Welcome to the Leave Your Ego at the Door podcast with your host, Chris. This podcast is a two-way street for people both successful and unsuccessful alike to share their stories, so that way we can all learn. In this podcast, you will learn from people of all sizes, both the ones who have made it and the ones who haven't or have not yet. We will learn the simple and complex strategies that they are using to either keep going or keep going nowhere fast. Take a journal out and prepare to learn.
So, in the first ever episode of the Leave Your Ego at the Door podcast, we're going to learn from my good friend Clarisse. So, Clarisse is basically a social media marketer. She's building like a small social media marketing agency. And we're going to learn what she's doing, the name of her business, and the universal question list that I created, the first version of it. We're going to use that to ask her different questions so we can learn what she's doing, what she's all about, and how she's doing it, and the strategies that you can learn to apply to your business or life. So I hope you enjoy. So starting off, question number one from the universal question list. What's your name?
My name is Clarisse. Yeah.
Where are you located?
I am based in Texas, but I am a traveler at heart. So I am all over the world.
That's cool. That's something that I aspire to be, honestly. I want to do that. So what's your business name?
It's actually the backwards of my name. So it's SRL Digital Marketing Agency.
Okay, cool. What does your business do?
Basically, we're a digital marketing agency for service-based local businesses. And basically, we just offer everything from social media management services to content creation.
That sounds very awesome. So how did you get started in this content creation and digital marketing?
So basically, and this might help you out with kind of a little bit of your goal with your podcast, is when the pandemic hit, obviously everything just got completely shut down. I said I was a traveler, so every plan that I had just completely went out the window. I wasn't a digital nomad yet. I was only a backpacker. So when everything shut down, I went back home to Texas and I said, okay, like, what am I going to do now? So I started a travel blog. And from there, I actually traveled, met another travel blogger, and they said, get rid of the travel blog. Like, that's just going to take you forever. And then from there, she said, do freelancing. So I started freelancing, ended up working for an agency that did organic social media marketing services as well. Learned a lot from them. And then when I traveled again, this was in Colombia, I met a person that said, why don't you outsource? Why don't you start an agency? And so like that really stuck in my head. And yeah, like that was kind of the idea from it, was just like a line of people kind of just really directing me towards kind of where I needed to go. And now like I'm really happy with it. So yeah.
That's very cool. I actually know someone who basically is doing the exact same thing that you are doing. He basically learned a skill set. He got a degree in accounting, learned a skill set from a marketing agency, and then basically started his own business freelancing, and he's pretty successful at it now. So it's pretty cool.
Nice.
Yes. Do you enjoy being a business owner?
Absolutely. I mean, both my parents are business owners when they were in the Philippines, and I think it's in my blood. That's one. But also, I'm really not that great as an employee. Like, I was a really good student, top of my class, blah blah, blah, etc. But the thing is, you would think that that would translate to being a good employee, but I'm not. Like, I hate listening to other people. I have my own ideas, and I've always wanted to open my own business. So actually, when the pandemic hit, I wanted to start a casino events business. And you can imagine, I was going to start it October 2020. That was the goal. And by February 2020, I was already talking to the lawyers, accountants, getting all the supplies and everything. And obviously, the first case of COVID hit like literally a month after, not even, like, it was just like weeks. And so I had to like put a huge pause on it. But really, I've always wanted kind of like that freedom and like the lifestyle that comes with really just working super hard to like kind of build your own dreams.
That's very cool. I actually have a similar story that my dad. The only reason why I got started in entrepreneurship was because of my dad. He had a painting business that was pretty successful, and I asked him one day. I said, "Dad, aren't you gonna be late for work?" And he said, "No, Chris, I own the business." So I was like, "Oh wow." So that's basically what started me down my path after high school to like going into business. You know.
Yeah, I love that. You always got to take inspiration from the people around you as well. I mean, obviously it has to be intrinsic, but there are people around you, I think, that like inspires you all the time. So I think that's really cool.
So, what are your favorite parts right now being about being an entrepreneur? Now, you kind of answered this already, but like, what are your favorite parts? Like,
So actually it's weird. Like my favorite part is really just figuring it out. Like I mean like I'm working sometimes and I mean I try to take breaks. I try to put my mental health at the forefront as well and not burn out. But since really deciding to do this and really just doing everything for myself and for the business, like even if I'm working, like sometimes I would look up at the clock and it would be like midnight and I'm still like I still want to keep going. Obviously I'm like go to bed but I still want to keep going, but I could work that many hours and I'm just enjoying every part of it in terms of like figuring it out and just like I don't know, even like overcoming like fears and like anxiety, like that actually is like in a way also really fun. It's a weird answer, but it's actually the obstacles and the challenges right now, especially in the startup phase, that really is kind of driving it, and it's kind of what makes it because it's like a puzzle, and it's like you're figuring it out as you go. So yeah, it's an unconventional answer, but I guess that is my answer.
yeah, I mean that makes a lot of sense because it's like I never thought of it that way either. It's like a puzzle you have to put together. So, I mean that's a really good insight. I hope someone gets some value out of that. So yeah, my next question is, what's your biggest challenge right now in business?
Actually, the first thing that popped up into my head was everything.
Yeah.
as because as you know, I'm in the startup phase right now. So when you're in the startup phase, you're doing everything, you're figuring everything out. There's gonna be a lot of things that you're gonna do that isn't gonna exactly be the right direction or the right strategic decision. So obviously, being very careful about making those correctly, but also it's like really trying to find the right people to surround you as well. If I had one answer to that question, I think that is where I'm at right now. And it's like finding the right mentors, like accountability partners, and really just people that would understand your journey, because there's so many times where I would wake up and I'm just so motivated, right? Like it's great, like the day is amazing, I did so many things, and then there are days that I wake up and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like can I actually do this? Like you're just filled with so much anxiety and you're just like, oh my goodness, like what am I doing? Like I could just like freelance and then just like travel. Like what? And for me, it's like really being able to surround yourself with people who have this same mindset towards entrepreneurship, but also the same mindset towards even the specific business that I'm in. So, being around other digital, agency owners that also has a different mindset to it, and really just people that will understand and kind of like push you in the right direction, because you can't really do it all yourself. Like, yes, the business is yours, but you really need to surround yourself with the people who will kind of help propel you into this. I mean, it's mindset, but it's also like, they've been through the journey. So it's like, okay, like I see it, like, and as an example, I'll give you one. When I was doing outreach, which is like one of my other bigger hurdles right now, but that's every business. And I was doing outreach and I wanted to follow up with this one person. So outreach, I'm not too bad with, but the follow up was a little harder for me. And I reached out to an entrepreneur that I know that's in my network. And I just asked him, like, how do you do this? Like, I'm just so anxious. And he said, like he just kind of coached me through it. We talked for like an hour and I was just like, wow, like that really helped. Like I was like, it's gone. Like I got it. And then honestly, I followed up with a client and then I got him the next day. So yeah, so sometimes it's just like those little things that you just really need to kind of get over the barrier. But having him, kind of just talk me through it, coach me through it a little bit, or even just having accountability partners that you can talk to about it really, really, really. So yeah.
That's really good to know. I can definitely relate to what you said about like waking up one day and it's the greatest ever, and then waking up the next day and you're like, Oh shit.
Yeah,
So
and I think that's
yeah.
something that people don't understand. To your point, that I actually really love the premise of your podcast, because there's so much things to be learned from the behind the scenes as well, which is kind of like more the unsuccessful side, right? Like success versus unsuccessful. So it's just like the behind the scenes is a big part of the unsuccessful, right? Like it's everything that you're going through before people see, oh, like you're standing on top of a mountain, and people think that someone just teleported you there, but nobody really sees the. And one of my friends told me this because she owns her own business as well. She said blood, sweat, and tears. And like for me, like I said, like I have a lot of anxious and fears, and just really trying to get to the mindset of like I can do this, and surrounding yourself with the right people. But no one really sees like that behind the scene kind of thing. And I think it's important for people to know that I think everyone, if not 99.9%, like there's maybe like a few lucky people in this world, maybe, and that's a huge maybe. But I think there's almost every entrepreneur, if not every entrepreneur, goes through this phase where it's like you doubt yourself, you go through kind of like this, like a lot of no's. You have to face a lot of rejections. You have to know how to be rejected. And that's something that I'm still learning. So I think it's always good to have like other, like, hear other people's stories when it comes to that, because I think it just gives you the kind of like that push to say, oh, I'm not the only one going through this, because sometimes we feel like it is, but it's not. So
That's a great answer. And that's exactly why I started this podcast, to be honest, was to just show people, like, without judging anyone, no judgment, just like this is the real deal of entrepreneurship. Like, it's not easy. And yeah, I just wanted to show that to people and let them know. And if they connect with you and they relate with you with your story and stuff like that, then they'll reach out and hopefully, you can work with them and stuff like that. So that's kind of what I want. I want to be the plug. uh, so yeah, my next question is, you may want to answer this, you may not want to answer this, but it's, what does your business model look like?
could you expand on that question?
Yeah. So I guess, like, for me, like my, like when I was kind of like doing digital marketing or freelancing and stuff like that, it'd be like my model would be like, so you put out the free content, then the people absorb it or they take it in, and then they reach out to you, they like your content, and then the next step is, like the value ladder, like, I guess is the question. Like, does that make sense? A little bit?
I think so. I just never had someone ask me that question, and I think the reason why it was hard for me to answer it was just because I'm still in the process of
Got
thinking
it.
about
Got
it.
it. Yeah.
But I guess to best answer it, and I don't know if the answer is going to be that great, but I guess the best answer it is, the model is really just figuring out, really even still the complete offering. So like I said, I do social media management, but really what really would resonate with the clients that I have. So I really, I have an ideal client avatar. Basically, right now I'm still sourcing through Upwork, but I'm going to probably in the next week start sourcing through lead generation. But I don't have any. I actually, every single client that I've ever sourced, from the beginning of my freelancing career, I've never shown a portfolio. Like I have just literally told them what I was going to do for them. They loved it so much that they never asked, can I see previous work you've done before? So that, I guess, I honestly didn't know I could actually sell myself that well, but apparently I'm pretty good at it. And so like I don't really have any like free content or anything. Like I started at a high price, and I've just kept raising my rates from the first time I did my freelance work. So I would say like I'm still figuring out the business model in terms of like actually getting clients as an agency, because that is one of the biggest hurdles for me as well, is transitioning from being a freelancer to being an agency.
Okay, very cool. I like what you said about how you're just raising your prices as people come along. That's pretty good. Yeah. So my next question is, if you want to answer it, like, how are you bringing customers? Like, I'm trying to, I guess my idea behind these questions is just like give a behind the scenes look. You know what I mean? Like you said. So like, what are you doing now to like bring in customers?
No, yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I'm still sourcing on Upwork. So really, I only started a month ago. So for anyone that's listening and want to kind of see a timeline of what I mean by a startup or like in the starting phase,
Mhm.
I only started a month ago. I dropped all of my clients because they were all content creators. And I didn't want to work with content creators. I realized that it was just too much work and they're just so knee deep into their business. And it was just giving me so much burnout because they just wanted so much. So I decided, I wouldn't do that. And so I had quit all my clients. And then I said, okay, I'll just start sourcing on Upwork when I have my standard operating procedures and all of that ready. And actually one of them had reached out to me. And so that kind of is what started it. So basically I have 2 clients on Upwork and 1 through word of mouth. So like a network that I have. It's always good to tap into your networks as well. But like I said, on Upwork, I really don't know how I do it. If anybody of your listeners, and you can, put my information on there, but if they want any help in how to source on Upwork, like I said, I really don't know how I do it, because a lot of people are always like, I can't source a client on Upwork, and it's been 2 months. Like the first 2 clients that I pitched to, and this was just last year, I got. So I have between, a 20 to 50% success rate, just depending on, when I'm applying. But usually, even if I take a break, let's say I have a full plate and then I take a break and then I source again, I've gotten both clients when I took both breaks. The first client that I applied to, I got. So it's been
It works.
yeah, it's been really interesting. So like I said, if anybody wants advice on that, but to answer your question, more of like sourcing clients for me right now is still as a freelancer, but I am moving into the lead generation model, which is basically cold outreach, right? I mean, you can still have warm leads, but it's smaller, so it's gonna be mainly cold leads. I don't have any experience in that yet, but I guess it's part of like what's behind the scenes, right? It's like the reason also why I haven't started is because I haven't done it yet, and I am scared. Like I really, like that 20 to 50% that I was talking about on Upwork is going to go down severely on a cold outreach. There is just no way. If I even get 20%, I would be one of the luckiest people. And I'm at that point really good. So, like facing that rejection and really just, doing the A/B testing and the strategy behind it and really just ramping up, what goes into those and really choosing the model as well, whether it's going to be cold email or cold, DMs, cold calls, which I'm not going to do just because I know it's not the right one for my business, but obviously that's viable for anybody else. But, it's just like, but I know like I want to start it next week. So I have some pretty tight deadlines for myself. But yeah, so far that's, and I haven't really wanted to source another client just yet because I don't have the scalability and I'm still trying to figure that out, right? Like you don't want to have like 5 clients knocking at your door and you're like, crap, like I don't have the people and I obviously can't handle 5 clients. I would just, die.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, that was great. I was gonna say that I did have that experience where you have 5 clients knocking on the door and you don't know what to do. So that happened to me before. So I guess a good word is maximum capacity. Like figure out like how much you can hold at one point, and then work with them and see the results you can get for them. Yeah. So I guess moving on to the final 3 questions. What do you think your major reason for success is so far?
Okay, I'm gonna need you to explain that question.
Yeah, like I know you said like you reached out to people on Upwork and they were like and you just got them without really pitching with a portfolio or anything. Like what do you think your major reason for that is?
Gotcha. So what is like the kind of like the backing behind like the success of even just like pitching to clients?
Yeah,
Is
like
that
why do you think you got those clients?
so? I can answer this one of 2 ways, and I guess I'll see where I go. So I was actually talking to one of my friends that I met, and he told me he graduated top of his class and all that stuff. And I said, like I said, friend, that's like it it matters, but it doesn't matter to be top of it because I was also top of my class. But I said, what really gives it kind of like that specialness, like no one cares if you graduate top of your class, but what really makes that different or special is I told them it's kind of like that tenacity and a discipline to be able to reach a place like that. Or like you would have to have enough of all of those qualities to be able to be awarded kind of that, I guess, that accolade. And the reason why I brought him up is because he's also a digital marketer. A big part of his job is to source clients, and he's very, 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 very good at it as well. Like I actually asked him to teach me his process. That's how good he was. Even though I was already good at it myself, he was also really good. So we both kind of have that mindset in terms of that, but it's also other than the discipline and the tenacity, it's also like we both do our homeworks. Like, whenever you're sourcing clients, I spend about 2 hours on a proposal. Like, I really put a lot of quality in it. It's very personalized, and it's definitely, there's also this thing. I mean, it's all down to marketing and marketing psychology, like how to get clients, and I study that. I look up YouTube videos. I, read books, watch podcasts on how to better serve people. It's not really how to get the client, but it's what would resonate with them. And so I think that it all goes for anything in business, right? Because like clients are like the lifeblood of any company, right? If you don't have customers or clients, you're going to fail as a business. And so I think that it's super important to really have the knowledge and the discipline to be able to say, okay, like this is the person that I want. How can I get them? And it's also in a way to think about, like, if you were the client, right? Like, what would you really want to see? I actually have like a list, and I put, was I hired, was I interviewed, or was I rejected? Was it a no? And on the no's, I actually pay attention more to the no's, and I reread them and I say, okay, like, where did I go wrong? What did it sound like? And then sometimes I'm just like, oh my gosh, yeah, I can see why I didn't get hired. I mean, it just sounds stupid, or it just sounds too generic, or it just sounds, there's too many I's instead of U's. I always start out my proposal with their name. I always try to find it. I also do A/B testing. So sometimes I send Loom videos instead of writing, just depending on who the client is, or if they give me like their social media. And I also do a lot of free audits. If you give out more free, and this is kind of where the free stuff comes in, I guess. Like, I don't really have a portfolio, but that's because I tell them and I show them exactly what I'm going to do for their account. They don't need to see what I'm doing for other accounts. They only need to do what I'm going to do for their specific account. And if they like it and they like the ideas, you will get hired.
That makes a lot of sense. I had a mentor one time. He kind of poured his wisdom into me, and I had no idea who this guy was. And he just reached out to me on Facebook, and he's like, he poured into me, and I asked him about marketing, and he said, like, you got to ask yourself, am I adding enough value to the marketplace? And I didn't know what he was talking about. I thought he was crazy, but get it. I tried it his way, and I made like $600 in 2 weeks. So it was pretty crazy. I sold my best product. I sold my best service, which is a music video. I sold it in 2 weeks, and I got paid, and I was blown away. So I think you're doing exactly what you should be doing. If the free audits are perfect, that's exactly. I don't want to make this an advice thing at all, but I think what you're doing is great. So, like, what is the wisest piece of advice you would give to someone who wants to start a business?
I would say that, and I don't know if I only have one. So I would say that I would tell them that you really have to want it. It's not an easy journey. I mean, there are some people that do get, and quote unquote, luckier than others, where they just start something that's a hobby, and it's obviously providing value, and it skyrockets. But when you're starting off from a place where you have an idea and you're working on that idea, you really have to want it. The other thing is surround yourself with the right people. And really, third, learn to be super disciplined and learn how to get rejected. There's going to be a lot of times where you're going to want to give up, and there's going to be times when, people are just not going to want your service. Actually, a lot of times where people are not going to want your service, more so than a yes. And you really have to take all of those no's and really just be able to tell yourself certain things along the way to really get yourself to like that, to the next yes. And it's always a learning curve. It's always a growing thing. And really to just not give up, because I mean, like, your business, especially in the beginning, is going to be the most time consuming, hardest thing that you're going to do. Like, it really, it requires so much of every single thing that you're ever going to have. Like, I thought I had discipline. Like I said, I graduated out of my class. I was obviously very disciplined, and even in everything that I do, I'm very disciplined. But when I started my business, I didn't know what the word discipline meant. At least it felt that way. I mean, I thought I was, and I knew I was. But when you have your own business, there's this extra, like, when you're playing video games, like the boss level of discipline, I guess. It's just like, it is an insane amount of discipline and get to it however you can. Like you can get an accountability partner, you can hire someone, however way you do it. But yeah, I would say like there's not really exactly one wisest piece, just because I feel like it's an overall piece of everything that I just said. But yeah, I hope that like you keep doing your I guess following your passion and keeping on your dreams, because you really have to keep telling yourself keep telling yourself every day that I can do this. And I know you can do this. So I hope that once you decide, you just stick to it, and then you'll know that with consistency, because that's the other part of discipline is consistency, you'll start seeing results. So just don't give up.
That's wonderful. I like what you said about learn how to get rejected. Yeah, that's definitely a huge piece. I'm still learning that, how to get rejected, you know? So it's like, sooner you learn how to get rejected, the sooner you'll make money, I guess, you know?
Oh, absolutely. Because one of my friends, the way that with the follow up thing that I was telling you before, the thing that he told me that he tells himself, because I live by quotes and apparently he does as well. The thing that he tells himself is, I'll get the next one. Right. Because if not, then you should just be filled with anxiety. Like, why was it a no? And you'll dwell on it, like, rather than that. And it's actually helped me. Like, I just keep saying, I'll get the next one. And, since I started doing the proposals kind of a little bit differently and towards a little bit more agency wise, that was actually when the 20% came in, because before I had a pretty good 30 to 40%. So I have started having to tell myself kind of the same quote, which is, I'll get the next one, and really just learning how to be rejected, because you will, like 90 to 80% of the time. And if you're even lucky, if you're like literally one of the luckiest people in the world and you can land clients left and right, it's still at least a 50% where you're getting rejected. And so you really need to see, kind of like have that strategy in mind as well. Like I said, the A/B testing. Why are you getting rejected? Instead of dwelling on it, really ask yourself why, re-strategize, take it as objectively as possible, and maybe your value for your offering, maybe you need to find a way to restructure it so that it's being perceived better. But yeah, like really just learn how to get rejected is a big part of entrepreneurship. And one of the hardest, by the way.
Definitely. Yeah, so that was someone who wants a better life. Not so much a business, but a better life.
I think I'm going to tackle that from a traveling perspective. You can do with it whatever you want. But, for someone that wants a better life, I really think that you just need to go after what it is that your heart kind of desires. And I know that that's what everyone says. So that's why I also want to go at it from a traveling perspective. So when I first started traveling, I really just found like this sense of like just amazing everything, right? Like everything that happens in your life kind of has a purpose, and you're always kind of like surrounded by new things. So I would say, like, for people who want a better life, travel more, but also for people that want a better life, I think, and sometimes it's a little hard to kind of say this to people who don't necessarily have like sometimes like in kind of from a mindset perspective, like how can I get out of it if like I can barely provide food for, myself or whatever, or something like that. But to me, and I guess it's just like if you want a better life, I think the best way to pull yourself out of it is to really see where your time is going, right? Like, where do you want to be and where are you right now? And what can you do to get there? And, we actually have a lot more time than we initially think, right? Like with the amount of, and it's weird because I'm a social media manager, but with the amount of social media scrolling that we do, the amount of TV shows that we watch, the amount of movies, and all of that stuff. Yes, it's good to have those, if you're really just needing to wind down. I still do it even right now. I'll give myself like an hour or two when I'm feeling burnt out. But really, more than anything is, are you doing it? Because for me, it's for my mental health a little bit more, just to not burn out. But are you doing it to escape, or are you doing it in a healthy way? And so I guess what I'm trying to get to, and I know I skirted around just to get to this point, but the point that I'm trying to get to is really evaluate the time of what you're spending and then really evaluate where you want to be and see if that aligns. And the one way that I really truly did this is actually, and I'm going to tell you this because it's so weird, I told one of my friends this as well, is from the movie Cinderella, the newest one with Camila Cabello. And it's weird, and it's one scene from the movie, and it was when she was staring at herself, her future self, and she could see it. And it's like, and that's actually what really changed it. I've tried everything. I've tried like journaling. I've tried, who do I want to be, or what do I want to be, blah, 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 blah. But it took me, and it's all the same thing. It's just what works for you. But it took me seeing who I wanted to be in 3 years. And the only way to get to where I want to be that person in 3 years is to start doing what I'm doing now. So, like, take advantage of every free time that you have. Take advantage of, if you're going to start a movie or a TV show to watch, really think about, should I read instead? Or should I reach out to other people and see if I can build a network? Or should I start a side hustle? And so, like I said, it just comes down to like the main point, which is take where you are right now, where you want to be, and really just find a way to make it work, even if you're just working on it for 30 minutes a day, right? Like 30 minutes a day, but really to hone in on what you want to do and yeah, work on it.
No, yeah, that's honestly great advice, because it's like I always think like how could I do more and how could I do better, but the real answer comes down to my daily habits. So it's like, what am I doing today or right now that is pushing me forward, and what am I doing today and right now that's not pushing me forward, So it's like I'm gonna remember that. I wrote it down.
I love that. And I'm glad you said daily habits. Like I said, this one's a bit harder for me to answer, but it really does come down to consistency, daily habits, and really priorities. A lot of people ask me how I can travel so much. And really, I have a travel blog. And literally one of the things that I say on there is priority. Like, that's it. Prioritize this is the life that I wanted, and it was the life that I chose. So I just prioritized it above anything else.
All right, awesome. So as we're wrapping this up, where can we learn more about you and your business?
Well, like I said, I have a travel blog called livelifeoffthebeatenpath.com. I also have an Instagram, adventure.for.life. And if you want any social media management services, it's ESSIRALC.com. So Esralc.com. And if you just want to talk to me, you can send me an email or send me a DM. Both are in my website or in my Instagram.
Okay, cool. So those will be in the show notes. So I just want to thank you so much for being on and being my first guest. So yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.